Let's sit with a number that should trouble you. About 8 out of 10 people who shed significant pounds end up putting them back on within 2 years. That statistic hasn't budged in decades. We've never known more about food, calories, or how the human engine works. Yet the outcome stays the same. Why? This isn't a mystery if you look through the lens of evolution. If you're past 50 and feel like your body has stopped playing by the old rules, if you're eating less but the waistband feels tighter or moving more, but recovery feels slower, here's the truth your doctor might not tell you. Your body isn't broken. It's following an ancient playbook, one forged over 200,000 years of survival, not by modern meal plans. The real question isn't, what's wrong with me? The real question is, what is my body designed to do at this stage? And why is the world we've built working against it? That gap between what evolution prepared us for and what diet culture demands is the precise spot where most efforts fall apart. Once you understand the biology underneath, the pattern of failure becomes almost predictable. I'm Dr. Daniel Lieberman. For years, I've studied how our ancestors evolved to run, eat, and survive. My goal here is simple: to help you see why your ancient biology is struggling in a radically modern world, and how to finally work with your nature, not against it. If this perspective, understanding the why behind your body's behavior, interests you, consider subscribing. We dig into one evolutionary insight at a time. To grasp why your energy systems shift after 50, we have to talk about something called life history theory. It's the study of how any living thing, including you, divides up its finite resources. Every calorie you use is spent on one of 3 things: growing, reproducing, or maintaining. In your youth, the balance tips toward growth. In your prime, it leans into reproduction and the upkeep that supports it. But as you move past the reproductive window, the evolutionary calculus changes. For most species, life after reproduction is short. The body has no reason to keep the engine running at peak performance. Humans are the outlier. We evolved a long post-reproductive life. Think of the grandmother hypothesis, the idea that older members of the group contributed to survival by sharing knowledge and food, making our long lifespan a successful evolutionary strategy. But here's the catch. The metabolic profile that came with this extended life was never intended for a world of endless calories. In our ancestral past, a slowing metabolism wasn't a flaw. It was a shield against starvation. It conserved energy during times of scarcity. Imagine a prehistoric winter. Food is scarce. Movement is costly. The bodies that survived were the ones that could dial down their internal furnace, hold on to fat reserves, and wait for spring. That same biological program still runs inside you today. What happens after 50 isn't metabolic damage. It's metabolic conservation, a survival mechanism that backfires in a world of abundance. This is where the first myth takes root. The first myth is the one you hear constantly. Your metabolism simply slows down as you get older. It's partially true, and that partial truth is exactly why it's so misleading. A massive 2021 study in Science tracked energy expenditure across 6,000 people, from infancy to old age. It found something that flipped conventional wisdom on its head. Your metabolic rate, adjusted for body composition, doesn't begin a meaningful decline until after age 60. Between 20 and 60, it's remarkably stable. Let that land. The belief that your metabolism goes off a cliff in your 30s or 40s, it's not supported by the data. It's become a cultural fact, repeated so often we accept it without question. What does change dramatically in those decades is your body composition. You lose lean muscle mass. And because muscle burns more calories than fat, a body with less muscle will have a lower resting burn. But this is a composition change, a loss of active tissue, not a failure of the metabolic engine itself. This distinction isn't academic. It changes everything about how you should respond. If the problem is a broken metabolism, the solution is to eat less. If the problem is lost muscle, eating less without building strength actually makes the problem worse. It's like trying to fix a leaky roof by turning down the heat. You're addressing the wrong variable. Why would a body designed to defend its energy stores suddenly cooperate with being starved? This leads directly to myth number 2, the idea that the primary solution is simply to eat less. If you take nothing else from this, take this. The human body did not evolve to surrender to a calorie deficit. It evolved to survive it. Our ancestors lived through feast and famine. The bodies that made it were the ones that, when food got scarce, got hyper-efficient. They lowered their energy output, cranked up hunger signals, and prepared to store fat like crazy as soon as food returned. That's not a bug. It's the feature that kept our species alive through ice ages and droughts. Now, when a person over 50 restricts calories, they trigger this ancient survival cascade. Leptin, the I'm full hormone, drops. Thyroid activity can subtly decrease. The body reduces unconscious movement, those little fidgets and steps that actually burn a surprising number of calories. Appetite hormones shift. screaming for high-density fuel. In our ancestral past, this was a lifesaver. In our modern world, where hyper-palatable food is everywhere, it's a trap. Studies show that after initial weight loss from restriction, the vast majority, 80 to 95%, regain the weight within a few years. The body's counter-response is more powerful than willpower. This isn't about a lack of discipline. This is biology. Think of a woman we'll call Margaret, a retired teacher in her mid-50s. She's disciplined, she cuts calories, loses 12 pounds over months, and then, a year later, she's gained back 15. She blames herself. But her body did exactly what it was designed to do when faced with a perceived famine. Margaret's story is the norm, and it points us directly to the third myth, one that would have completely changed her outcome. Margaret tracked her macros, she ate more vegetables, she cut out processed junk. By all conventional measures, she was doing everything right. Yet her energy was low, and her blood sugar numbers were creeping up. Her problem wasn't the food she was eating, it was what her muscles weren't doing. Skeletal muscle is the body's primary site for pulling glucose out of your bloodstream. It's not passive tissue. It responds to demand. When you load your muscles, when you lift, carry, push, or pull, they become super sensitive to insulin, the hormone that clears sugar from your blood. When muscles are underloaded, they lose that sensitivity. Blood sugar stays high longer. The body pumps out more insulin to compensate. Over time, tissues become resistant to insulin signals, leading to fat gain, inflammation, and metabolic chaos. The key here is that this process is mechanical. It's not just nutritional. Ancestral humans didn't have perfect diets. They had constant, varied, load-bearing lives. They carried kids, dug for roots, walked on uneven ground. That physical input was a continuous signal to their muscles to stay metabolically active. Modern life, especially after 50, has stripped away those signals. Car-dependent suburbs, desk jobs, supportive chairs, the mechanical input that muscle evolved to need is largely gone. How can two people eating the same diet have completely different metabolic health? This is how. It's the mechanical input, or lack of it. You can eat a perfect diet, but if you don't provide the mechanical signal, you can't fully compensate. This is why so many nutritionally sound programs produce incomplete results. The body doesn't run on food choices alone. It runs on an integration of food, hormones, and the physical demands placed on your frame. Which brings us to the fourth myth, the one that acts like a ceiling on our hopes. The fourth myth is the most limiting, the belief that after 50, your metabolic set point is fixed, that you've passed a point of no return. Evolution says otherwise. Your body didn't evolve to reach a final state and stop. It evolved to respond continuously to signals. That adaptive capacity doesn't just turn off. Research on muscle biology shows that tissue retains incredible plasticity well into your 70s and 80s. Resistance training in older adults leads to measurable gains in muscle size, strength, and, critically, insulin sensitivity. We're not talking about marginal improvements. These are meaningful functional gains. The systems that store and mobilize fat are equally responsive. Sleep quality affects cortisol and insulin regulation. Getting enough protein, often more than standard guidelines suggest, supports new muscle synthesis. Even aligning your eating with your circadian rhythm, your internal body clock, has been shown to improve glucose tolerance, independent of what you eat. None of this is optimization buzzwords. This is your biology doing what it was designed to do, respond to input. The metabolic profile of a 55-year-old is not a sentence. It's a current snapshot shaped by current inputs. Change the inputs consistently, and the biology follows. But, and this is crucial, the timeline must match the biology. The rapid 30-day transformations sold by the diet industry are not aligned with how human bodies adapt over the lifespan. Sustainable metabolic improvement in older adults is gradual, non-linear, and depends on redesigning your environment, not a temporary sprint. Understanding these four myths makes the structure of the diet industry's failure predictable. The industry isn't built around your evolutionary biology. It's built around your psychological vulnerabilities, specifically the ancient craving for a quick fix to a survival threat. Our ancestors felt urgency around food scarcity. The modern diet industry exploits that urgency. Rapid weight loss, dramatic before and afters, 30-day protocols. They work temporarily because your body can drop water weight and respond to novelty. But they are fundamentally working against the biology of an organism that evolved to resist exactly that. Ultra-processed foods are engineered to hit the exact sensory triggers our brains evolved to seek out in nutrient-dense foods. The reward system can't easily tell the difference between finding a patch of ripe berries and opening a bag engineered in a lab. The signal feels the same. the metabolic consequence is entirely different. For adults over 50, this is especially potent. As sources of novelty narrow in later life, the pull of familiar, rewarding foods can intensify. Meanwhile, the physiological fallout, the insulin spikes, the inflammation, compounds the challenges already heightened at this life stage. It's a system designed to produce failure. And then that failure is blamed on you, on your age, on your lack of willpower, not on the mismatch between modern culture and your ancient design. So, what does a useful evolutionary framework actually look like? It starts with a shift in goal. The focus of most programs is weight reduction, a number on a scale. Evolutionary biology suggests a different primary goal: metabolic stability. Metabolic stability means maintaining the functional capacity of your key regulatory systems, insulin sensitivity, glucose control, lean mass, and low inflammation. This is a fundamentally different objective from just losing weight. Chasing weight loss through restriction tends to strip away lean tissue, especially in older adults. It accelerates the very problem you're trying to solve. Chasing metabolic stability through movement, protein, and sleep does the opposite. It targets the drivers of dysfunction without triggering the body's survival mode counter-response. Consider the hormonal shifts. The drop in estrogen after menopause changes fat distribution toward visceral fat, the deeper, more inflammatory kind. You can't fix that with a calorie deficit alone. Similarly, the gradual decline in testosterone in men affects their ability to build and maintain muscle. These aren't problems solved by picking different foods. They require addressing the hormonal and mechanical context. The body is not a simple calorie calculator. Treating it like one gets you calculator-shaped results, precise in theory, inadequate in practice. If the biology points away from restriction and toward integration, what does a practical plan look like? First principle: environmental design over behavioral effort. Hunter-gatherers didn't exercise. Their environment required movement. They didn't eat clean. That's just what was available. For lasting change, you design your environment to do the heavy lifting. Make load-bearing movement a structural part of your day. Carry objects, take the stairs, walk on varied terrain. Consistency and mechanical load matter more than the specific workout. Second, restructure your food environment. Reduce friction for whole foods. Increase friction for ultra-processed products that exploit your reward system. This isn't about moral judgment. It's about acknowledging that your brain is heavily influenced by what's easiest to grab. Third, respect your circadian biology. Your metabolic processes are organized around a 24-hour clock. Consistent sleep, natural light in the morning, and avoiding late-night eating are foundational, not optional. They are alignment with your evolved physiology. And finally, revise your expectations. Your body adapted over hundreds of thousands of years. It responds to a new environment over months, not days. The 30-day transformation is a sales pitch, not biology. Think of a man in his late 50s, David, active in his youth, now working from home. He's gained weight around his midsection despite no change in diet. The advice he gets is about food, but the primary driver of his change isn't food. It's the absence of mechanical loading. Restoring that through carrying a weighted backpack on a walk, using stairs, adding 2 resistance sessions a week, begins to address the actual biological driver, not through punishment, through alignment. We started with a troubling statistic, an 80% failure rate that hasn't changed in decades, despite all our knowledge. Perhaps the problem isn't that we don't know enough about food. Perhaps the problem is that our entire framework for understanding metabolism is misaligned with the biology we're working with. Your body isn't failing. It's responding as it evolved to. The human body after 50 is not a broken machine. It's a system executing a strategy shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of selection. A strategy designed for scarcity, variable food, and continuous mechanical demand. It's a strategy entirely mismatched with a world of abundance, chairs, and an industry built to exploit your ancient drives. The 4 myths we covered, that metabolism crashes, that eating less is the answer, that food alone determines health, and that your fate is fixed, are more than just misunderstandings. They are misfires. They treat symptoms while misidentifying causes, and they create interventions destined to collide with your body's evolved defenses. The goal isn't to eat less. The goal is to align your environment with your design. What does that mean practically? It means the most useful question isn't, what should I eat? It's, what environment does my biology require to function well at this stage of life? That answer includes food, but it extends to movement, sleep, hormonal context, circadian rhythms, and the fundamental design of your daily life. These aren't small changes, but they are changes that work with your biology, not against it. And that distinction, in the long run, is the only one that consistently matters. Let's go deeper into what environmental alignment actually looks like, because this is where theory meets reality. When we talk about mechanical loading, we're not talking about becoming a gym rat. We're talking about reintroducing the kinds of movements that were once unavoidable. In ancestral environments, every day involved squatting, lifting, carrying, climbing, and walking long distances over uneven ground. These movements did more than build muscle. They sent a cascade of signals to your entire body. They told your bones to stay dense. They told your fat cells to stay insulin sensitive. They told your brain to maintain a healthy appetite regulation system. In your modern life, you can simulate these signals without spending hours in a gym. Carry your groceries in from the car in one trip. Use a standing desk for part of the day. Take a phone call while walking outside. If you have stairs, use them multiple times a day. Not as exercise, but as transportation. These small, consistent mechanical loads add up to a powerful signal that your body is still in an environment that requires physical capability. Now let's talk about food environment in more concrete terms. The modern grocery store is a minefield of engineered foods designed to override your natural satiety signals. Products are formulated to have what food scientists call the bliss point. The precise combination of sugar, fat, and salt that maximizes reward without triggering fullness. Your body's ancient circuitry was never meant to handle foods that have been stripped of fiber and concentrated in calories. One practical approach is to apply a simple rule. If it comes in a box and has a long ingredient list you can't pronounce, increase the friction to eat it. Put it in a hard-to-reach cupboard. Better yet, don't bring it into your home at all. On the other hand, make whole foods, vegetables, lean proteins, nuts, fruits, visible and accessible. Put a bowl of apples on the counter. Pre-cut vegetables so they're ready to eat. Your brain will gravitate toward what's easiest, so make the healthy choice the easy choice. Sleep, often overlooked, is perhaps the most underrated metabolic lever. Poor sleep for even a single night can reduce insulin sensitivity by up to 25%, essentially making your body less able to handle carbohydrates the next day. Chronic sleep deprivation raises cortisol, which promotes fat storage around the midsection. It also increases ghrelin, the hunger hormone, while decreasing leptin, the satiety hormone. You become hungrier and less satisfied at the same time. If you're struggling with weight after 50, before you change your diet, ask yourself, are you getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep most nights? If not, that's where your intervention should start. Circadian alignment goes hand in hand with sleep. Your body's metabolic rhythms are set by light. Morning sunlight, even through clouds, helps set your internal clock, signaling your body to release cortisol at the right time, which in turn primes your cells for glucose uptake. Eating late at night when your body is preparing for rest leads to higher blood sugar spikes because your cells are less responsive to insulin. This is why time-restricted eating without cutting total calories has been shown to improve metabolic health in many studies. It's not magic, it's alignment. Now you might be thinking, this all sounds reasonable, but what about the psychological side? What about stress, emotional eating, the feeling that you've been trying for years with nothing to show for it? Stress is a critical piece. When you're under chronic stress, your body stays in a state of high alert, pumping out cortisol. Cortisol's job is to mobilize energy, to raise blood sugar so you can fight or flee. But in modern life, you rarely fight or flee. You sit in traffic or worry about a deadline. That mobilized energy ends up being stored, preferentially as visceral fat. So any metabolic strategy that ignores stress is incomplete. What can you do? The same mechanical loading that helps your muscles also helps your nervous system. Movement, especially rhythmic, load-bearing movement like walking or lifting, is one of the most effective ways to break the stress cycle. So is spending time in nature, which lowers cortisol and shifts your nervous system out of fight or flight mode. These aren't luxuries, they're metabolic necessities. Let's bring this back to the bigger picture. The reason most diets fail after 50 is not because you lack willpower or because your body is broken. It's because you've been given a map that was drawn for a different terrain. The diet industry operates on a model of temporary intervention. Do this for 30 days and you'll be transformed. But your body operates on a model of continuous adaptation. Respond consistently to your environment over time and you'll become more resilient. Think about your body as a wild animal. You can't train a wild animal with a 30-day program. You have to design its habitat. You have to shape the environment so that the behaviors you want, movement, whole foods, restful sleep, become the default, not the exception. That's what evolutionary alignment means. So here's a challenge. Pick one area of your environment to change this week. Maybe it's adding a 15-minute walk after dinner. Maybe it's moving your bedtime 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's rearranging your kitchen so that the healthy foods are front and center. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. The body responds to consistent, sustained signals, not heroic short-term efforts. And if you slip up, if you have a stressful week and fall back into old habits, that's not failure. That's your biology doing exactly what it was designed to do, seeking comfort and energy. The question is not whether you fall off track. The question is whether you get back on, not with guilt, but with the understanding that you're working with an ancient system that deserves patience. The body is more integrated than most dietary advice suggests. But there's one piece of this puzzle that changes everything about how your metabolism functions after 50, and it has nothing to do with food or movement. It has to do with the trillions of microorganisms in your gut, an ancient ecosystem the modern world has quietly dismantled. I explain exactly how that works and what it means for your metabolic health in this video right here. If you found this evolutionary perspective useful, if it helped you understand the why behind your body's behavior, please hit that like button. It helps us bring more of these insights to people who need them. And don't forget to subscribe to Dr. Lieberman's Explained.